Thank you for coming this morning. My objective is to have you leave here thinking differently about what you do and how you do it in terms of your idea work. Now, coming to Silicon Valley and Stanford, when I was at IMD in Switzerland, we brought our executive MBAs here every year for a few weeks and visited firms, some of the firms in the room, and it is probably the most idea-rich area in the world, many would argue. So this is a little bit like preaching to the choir. But the teacher and the professor is going to come out in me now, and I hope you leave this session thinking differently. So I have an objective, and now you're stuck here. I want you to enjoy breakfast, enjoy this talk, and I'm going to blast through the presentation, give you the basic ideas in the book, and then we'll have time for question and answer. Fair enough? So the idea hunter. An idea hunter is an individual, a professional, who searches for ideas in unique places, unusual places, who has mastered the skills of finding ideas to kind of advance their professional, their company's interests, and has a voracious appetite for learning. So that's an idea hunter. And we'll talk about how to be a hunter more effectively. But before we do that, I'd like to talk about the notion of an idea and why this concept of an idea is so powerful and is the basis for this as individuals. All right? And ideas essentially fuel our future. They fuel our future in a macro sense, in an economic sense. And this work that influenced me 10, 15 years ago, I started reading the work of Paul Romer, who for a while was an economist at Stanford, but Romer came up with a theory of economic growth based on the power of ideas. Now, what do I mean by ideas drive our future? All right? Well, if we think about this idea, the idea of mass production, all right, Ford wanted to create transportation that everybody could afford. That was his mission, that was his objective. And what he ended up with was this idea, the assembly line, use of interchangeable parts, and everything that goes into it. And there's a set of ideas here that didn't just allow Ford to create this massive automobile firm, but also these ideas influenced our society in huge ways in service manufacturing industries for many, many years and still do. Now, where did Ford get some of these ideas? Just two interesting side stories. One, he was in Chicago meatpacking plants visiting kind of with friends and other owners of these firms, and he saw the carcasses of beef moving down the assembly line. And he said, you know, wait a minute. If they're moving 1,000-pound carcasses of beef across and they're getting sliced and diced up, I can move automobiles the same way, masses of machinery. That's where he got some of the basic ideas for moving the automobiles instead of the people moving. Another area he got an idea, he was in France. He was an automobile race aficionado. So he's in France. There was a major accident on the track. He went over. He was looking around the debris on the ground. He picked some up, and it was a very light material. And he looked and he said, "What's this?" No one had an answer. He brought it back. He gave it to the engineers, and he said, "Find out what this is." They found out what it was. It was a highly unusual alloy, and it was strong enough and light enough to handle the cars in the assembly line. Without that discovery, without him going over to that debris of material, they never could have built that assembly line. That alloy allowed them to put it into the Model T Ford. So Ford had some ideas, but a lot of what he found out was from unusual places. So that idea drove economic progress. Another is this, right? Some truths are self-evident, and those truths are ideas in which this society is based, other societies around the world. So when Jefferson wrote this, he didn't sit in some corner and think of this. He got his ideas from the Netherlands, he got his ideas from France, and he put these ideas into a document that have affected all of us and still do. So the power of ideas are enormous. McDonald's, America was exploding, people were moving down the highway, it was the 1950s, post-World War II. Kroc said, you know, how can I take advantage of this new mobile society? Well, if I can have a lot of clean bathrooms on those highways, I can sell something. He ended up selling fast food. He put McDonald's there. So this notion has been replicated over and over. Finally, Google, right? The World Wide Web, the idea, how do we perfect search? I talked to some people last night. I did this for Boston College alum up in San Francisco, and they discussed how they do something to promote the hunting for ideas in Google. Because this talk is aimed at us as individuals, but firms have to think, how can we in fact instill and invigorate and energize our firm so everybody is hunting for ideas? Maybe we can discuss that in Q&A. So these are big ideas I just discussed, and they go on, but it's not just big ideas that fuel progress, it's small ideas. Now this is a small idea, it's a coffee cup with a lid. And essentially, at one point, I think it was 10, 15 years ago, someone had the idea that Different size coffee cups could be, you could use one size lid for small, medium, and large. You don't need many lids. So they perfected it with the materials, and now in many coffee shops around the world, you have one size lid and multiple size cups. And a lot of you are saying, who cares, right? Well, you think about that. It saves material, it saves setup time in the coffee shop, it saves the customer from going through and figuring out which size lid and making sure those things are stocked in the morning. Small little time savings, customer convenience, that's an idea that drives progress. So it's the big ideas, medical ideas, process ideas, product ideas that fuel our future, as well as the millions of ideas that affect all of us. Right? And Romer talks about how societies that are idea intensive have a bigger advantage over those who aren't. But let's get personal here. Now let's talk about ideas and us. All right? Because I would argue ideas drive our personal or our professional progress. All right? And if we think about two things, two elements of what we need to be successful, we have objects and we have ideas. And what objects do we need to be successful? Well, we need our digital, our BlackBerry, our Apple, iPhone, whatever we have. We need computers. We need software, which is really codified ideas, but we need software. We need an automobile. We need a nice desk. We need certain things. So we need objects to be successful, no doubt. We also need ideas. How we can do our job better. How can we deliver customer service? How can we focus on the things that really matter for our firm, for our own professional career? Right? So we need ideas and we need objects. What's more important? How many people here need more objects to be successful? How many need more things? And so if we think about this, this is a picture of a gap in the Grand Canyon. Think about your object gap and your idea gap. And I would argue for me, certainly as dean of a business school, I have a lot more focus and a lot more energy and effort spent on finding great ideas to move Boston College forward. How do we do certain things with the undergraduates, the MBAs, the faculty, on and on and on.